Now recording.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Rook DAO status update. My name's Kyle, or What's the Deets. Today we'll be covering, a quick update on the kind of engineering and operations of the labs team, and then we'll talk about kind of recent events, and then open it up for some open forum questions and discussion topics that anybody wants to talk about. So as always, we'll kind of go through a couple bookkeeping items, and then we'll get started with the stand up. So first, if you guys weren't around for the last 2 weeks, we had two great calls, a great Treasury Tuesday and a great governance workshop. Talked through some really important stuff, specifically around some proposals that have been on the forum or posted recently as well. So I would encourage you to go check those out, and I'll mention it again as always because the Starbase team is awesome. Check out rookbase.xyz for recaps of those calls as well as recordings for anyone that missed it. But yeah, the two calls last week were really good. As well, one of the things we got still we're still rolling out of Denver a little bit slow. A good chunk of our team got pretty sick from there, and so we're just coming back. So you'll see the updates are a little bit briefer, for this period. But really, I'm going to hit home on the key things, and really, some of the technical stuff that I typically talk about on that in terms of updates that have been made to our technology. I'm probably going to skip past some of that stuff this week. But why don't we just hop right in there? So, looking at kind of the engineering side, we continue to see a lot of work on getting full end-to-end testing running up and properly with new swaps and with the relay product. And so that's involving everything from fine-tuning Ninja and our database in terms of logs of all pricing and auctions and transfers, and all the the information recording that we've got there. And so all these little things need to be kind of strung up together well. So that work is still going strong. I think we're going to start seeing like successfully landed transactions through these end-to-end tests relatively soon. So exciting to see kind of more of this kind of meticulously get kind of put together and tested out, and then as we kind of get to more comfortable points, that's when we'll start seeing some more exciting stuff around there. One of the key things that we've talked about in terms of kind of blockers for engineering or kind of some of the kind of key milestones, is getting additional searchers now integrated with the new new products. And so that work, as I've said before, is still underway, and it's a critical step because as much as Ninja can act as a backstop and has been receiving a lot of attention in the last couple quarters in terms of trying to prep for this, without healthy searcher competition with larger kind of transaction flow and things, we just need to make sure that the data is right and we have coverage leading up to things. So that's still being worked on. I know that a lot of documentation for searchers is being written, as well as kind of documentation for, kind of prospective partners and things. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Kind of wrapping out the engineering side is, just a lot more, kind of specific edge case, updates that need to be made around end-to-end testing. But with that, the engineering team is also working on, documentation for step-by-step integrations for, any type of, let's call it corporate or institutional user of our products. So, as you talk about, working with larger, order flow providers or DEX aggregators or things like that, some of the things that they want to see is that kind of enterprise level service in terms of being able to onboard to our products easily and have, a guide handed to them. So that's stuff that we're working on as well. And so, while developing and documenting, we're working, as fast as we can. And so, we're excited for where the engineering is right now, and should start to see things that resolve or, kind of, resemble like a full, kind of completed landed transaction end-to-end tests with hopefully multiple keepers integrated relatively soon, is our hope. But yeah, so that is, on the engineering side, that's the update there. On the operations side for labs, as I said, Denver was a big priority, and now following up from Denver has been, really kind of key to us. Looking at BizDev specifically, I personally had 45 individuals to follow up with that were, I would say, maybe not all hot leads, but definitely relationships for us to kindle. And you multiply that across many of the individuals that attended. There's a lot of follow-up work, digestion, and an organization of leads and priorities there. And so once we've gotten all that information kind of funneled in and worked through, we'll be prioritizing stuff. And, exciting things from there. We've already had some great conversations from some organizations that came up and met with us in Denver as well. And, and it's not just kind of partnership opportunities that we, got to seek out there. We got to see a bunch of people that were longtime users. We actually found a couple new searcher teams that, were interested that, been doing things like being solvers for other protocols. And we're interested in how they could be a searcher for our protocol. And so for us, trying to find some engineering bandwidth to be able to kind of vet some of these teams and get documentation ready for them to kind of compete in a, like kind of a more permissionless way, and having people integrated and ready to go. So that a side conversation, but yeah, so Denver was fantastic. The follow-up from it has been great. As I mentioned, we've been slowed with, a number of us getting sick. I got the Denver PO-op while I was out there, and a number of us did. But, we're going to continue to hopefully see some good conversations from there. Obviously there's nothing big to announce from there yet, no official partnerships or anything like that. But conversations and relationship building definitely was very effective out there. What else did we have here? On the treasury side, there's been a lot of talk about what happened with U.S. banks and USDC. So another key way to highlight the Treasury Tuesday that happened, and please go check that out if you're interested in that topic. How we view, let's call it Treasury crises or moments of crisis in terms of our assets or things like that. We were very aware of this from kind of the minute news broke, and we're talking about how we could help it. And, very excitingly, as we'll talk about in the governance section, we now have the ability to be agile with the like-kind asset swap now passing as of about 70 minutes ago. So, I really like to see what's happening, with governance, kind of making sure that we can take care of ourselves, and the level of research and due diligence that, Matt and 50 are doing is fantastic. I think that's mostly about it. I'm not sure if we covered it in the last one, but again, welcome to new Sophon, Nathan Worsley, who is an OG Mev searcher. He's created some really cool things out there and well regarded in the, kind of greater crypto industry. And so it's nice to see him join our Sophon ranks, and a big thank you to Doge for his time that he served with us as well. And then just kind of the last thing on governance before we kind of will open it up and wrap up the stand up. We still do have a number of very important proposals under Sophon consideration that have been discussed in the community pretty heavily. some of them are of key importance. Looking at like the leadership powers that's looking to be extended. The budget. Some of these things that keep our operations running. So I'm looking forward to seeing kind of forward motion on the governance side there as well. And then, even more excitingly, I'd love to see the kind of community spark back up and taking part in governance actively. And so some of the new proposals that are out there, and one that just landed today, I love to see it. And so I think that we're at a point that I'd love to kind of open it up if anyone's got anything that they want to talk about or ask questions about the stand up, or just kind of start a discussion topic. Feel free. So anyone's welcome to hop in here.
Yeah, I'll hop in. Thanks for the update, Deets. A lot of interesting, cool things in the pipeline. I'm glad we could get refreshed after a few weeks away from updates. So as you guys probably seen from my shit posting in the Discord, I am an author of a new kind of KIP draft I was thinking up. And the draft, I'll summarize it in a couple sentences. Basically, a lot of discussion has been circulating around the current tokenomics and the struggle that the tokens had over the past couple months, and the fact that our treasury exists and it's well funded, and there's kind of been no relationship between those entities. And this proposal addresses it. I think for the DAO's sake, there's a really strong case to be made that they should acquire some Rook tokens. I think it has the long-term outlook of the DAO. It meets the mission statements. It's kind of optimizing for the long-term survival of the DAO. I put a lot of thought into the different parameters and edge cases of a proposal like this, and I think it's pretty solid. But yeah, I'd love if anybody could check it out if they have some free time and give feedback, or if anybody has questions now, let me know.
Yeah, hi. Sorry for joining. Sorry for joining really late. Obviously I missed the first part of that. Could you just really high level go through what the kind of value proposition is for a buyback program?
Yeah, that's a great point. So this is positioned not as a buyback program. This is a targeted acquisition of Rook tokens from the DAO. We have a target acquisition of 150,000 tokens, which would bring the treasury to 25% of the Rook supply. The budget I propose in this proposal is about 2,900 ETH. And that's budgeted out at an exchange rate of 0.019 Ethereum. Using Ethereum to purchase this Rook is a very important aspect of the proposal because it fits the risk profile. It doesn't interfere with any contributor budget liabilities. But the reasoning is because the Rook DAO doesn't own enough tokens. The native asset of this DAO isn't very valuable in its current form, as we all know. We don't have a lot of power with our intrinsic capital. Having more of the token supply will help that in the future. And if you look at the proposal, I kind of outline some industry standards and do some research there on how your native token should be treated. And I think there's a strong case to be made that the Rook DAO should own more of it for its future long-term success.
So could you elaborate on how swapping from ETH to Rook facilitates that long-term success?
Yeah, absolutely. So here, I'm going to just pull up my writing really quick.
You're welcome to share your screen too.
Okay, let me clean up all the chaos of tabs I have going on. And where is? Yeah, give me a second. Hopefully, I don't dox anything too important, like my social security or porn folder or. Okay. Yeah, if everybody can take a look at that. Can you still see?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, basically, my argument is that on November 6th, this is the beginning of the FTX collapse. Presented a lot of market inefficiencies. Bitcoin and Ethereum have recovered these levels, but the Rook token has not. And I think there's a case to be made that, and according to the DAO charter, that a targeted and controlled strategic investment in the Rook token might be really good for the long-term success of the DAO. If you look at kind of other native tokens across different DAO treasuries, there's a couple ways that Rook is an outlier and not in a positive way. We don't have any future emissions coming. The token's completely unlocked. The value of our treasury is not very high. Yet the allocation that the treasury holds is low in comparison to other DAOs receiving emissions or who have a very valuable treasury. Really, we fit none of those. One way that DAOs have gotten around this challenge for the purpose of having more native treasury or native tokens to allocate for spending, strategic investments, grants, things like that, community incentives. One method is they'd mint a new token. I don't think that's a great path forward for Rook in any way because it kind of it doesn't align with the trust in the community that they put into the token when buying it. Mentioned previously was the vested unlocks. Rook has no more of that. And native assets with a high valuation, like Lido has specifically, they use that token to fundraise hundreds of millions of dollars of runway for their project. And right now, we're not kind of positioned to do that. And that is really us underutilizing our intrinsic capital. So I picked the number 25% because it fits the kind of, it's not an industry standard, but it's very common across the industry to try to acquire that much. And yeah, that would directly translate to a goal of acquiring 150,000 Rook. So how would we go about doing this is a great question as well. I propose we use wrapped ETH to do this for a number of questions. Luckily, KIP37 just got established. So that makes it a really flexible asset to use for an acquisition like this. I believe that one criticism was that there's kind of no alignment between revenue and the token Rook. So one way this kind of addresses that is that our future revenue will be in wrapped ETH, and this doesn't need to be the only acquisition. Also, there's parameters in here that the acquisition might not even get completed within the allotted time window. So this could be a reoccurring process, maybe on a quarterly basis, and it might allow revenue to be more closely associated with the token. It fits the risk parameters specified by the DAO and some other treasury documentation. The risk portion of our DAO is for taking risk, and there's no liabilities due to budget and wrapped ETH. So I think that's a very good token. And I mentioned that November 6th FTX collapse date for a reason, and that would kind of determine the maximum exchange rate I think is appropriate. So yeah, I could even I'll look up a chart later if somebody has a question about that. But I think that's a great exchange rate, and what it would do is it act as the maximum exchange rate that we're looking to target. Right now, Rook is trading below that, and I think that's fine. But this proposal proposes to acquire Rook at any price below that or at that exchange rate. Like I said, this is a one-time proposal, a small window of time in which this acquisition could be executed. It's really meant for a Q2, but depending on, like maybe for instance, the Treasury can't acquire our targeted Rook and doesn't spend the budgeted at ETH or wrapped ETH, excuse me, because the exchange rate is above 0.19. We're going to have extra assets that are returned to the Treasury, but we're still not at that 25% target, right? So maybe Q3, we reevaluate with revenue, we reevaluate with what we've acquired, and maybe we run a similar proposal to this and we come up with a plan then. It's not tokenomics, it's really aligning to that strategic acquisition of Rook around the 25% token supply mark. And we're just like addressing this over time and adapting to what does and doesn't happen. I have some very clear parameters for how an order can be executed. You could kind of read these in detail, but it's on chain at or below that exchange rate, and specifically an order amount of 15 wrapped ETH per order per button click. The reason this is explicitly stated is because that would allow the Rook DAO to kind of place a limit order on that price. So if the exchange rate goes above that, Rook at that price is still a value, so they can buy 15 wrapped ETH anytime the price returns to that point. We're limited it to on-chain executions. The Treasury has the right to use any number of orders to accomplish this. And then, yeah, this is really your even earlier question, the benefits to the DAO. I'll just read it because I think I clearly stated it here. Like, acquiring Rook aligns with the core values of the DAO. It protects against future instability for DAO funding while clarifying the importance of Rook for its long-term success. The clearly laid out parameters of execution prevent any unforeseeable risk while empowering the Treasury to use discretion in unforeseen circumstances. Using ETH as the purchasing asset maintains the DAO's risk structure without jeopardizing contributors' stability. Overall, I think everybody wins. The DAO, contributors, token holders. Some more benefits even. It empowers Rook to make strategic capital raises in the future. Like I mentioned, that Lido proposal that funded the DAO with the sale of their native token. One thing that Rook doesn't have is liquidity provision programs that make it very liquid asset. Right now, I would consider it very illiquid. So having more of our token gives us more flexibility there. Like I mentioned earlier, it aligns revenue with the native asset in a more clear way, since revenues in wrapped ETH. An acquisition of this kind is using wrapped ETH. And having more of our native asset enables us to do more things with it, more grants, more partnerships, with all the things mentioned previously. The Treasury would be required to report on all of their orders, specifically the amount of Rook they acquired and a cost basis. That would come in 14 days before the end of the window. And that would allow the DAO to draft maybe another proposal to evaluate the result of this. Maybe we didn't hit our budget and met target acquisition we have leftover Rook. Maybe it didn't work, but we agreed to this risk profile as token holders. We can adjust and reevaluate. But yeah, I think it addresses a lot of concerns from the community. It addresses regulatory concerns from the team for stability purposes. And I think I have some evidence that it would be a good idea to have more of our token. But yeah, open to feedback.
I think it's great. I think you did a ton of research here. I would want to shy away from trying to say like, hey, we've had a full discussion on this. I think this would be a great governance workshop feature. So like, yeah, happy to have folks provide their, feedback on this now, and, we'll catch it for the recap. But, I think that, I'd love to get a lot more people the ability to kind of comment on this for you as well.
Yeah, and I just got it out this morning. I worked on it the last few days, so just getting the discussion started. Really, definitely need more of it.
For sure.
Yeah, I'd like to just kind of echo what Deeds said there. I think that's a really well done proposal. I'm really impressed with it, to be honest. I think that's I definitely appreciate the kind of the research and the professionalism that you put into that. So yes, thank you. Yeah,
well, thanks for that. Any suggestions? Meditate on it. Idea generators still on mute, but
no. Oh, sorry. Yeah, he can come off mute.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
Good.
No, I thought it was a good proposal, and I would echo that. I think it's a important thing that the DAO should seriously consider. I think most companies and others would scream at the ability to buy back what is below intrinsic value, given where our treasury is at, and then in the future, again, be able to use it for grants and for future strategic growth of the protocol. And just to be honest, overall, just like the health of the protocol, it doesn't look good that it's below treasury just in general. I think that's what also helped the visibility of the protocol and just people's view of the health of it. Because to be honest with you, it's trading as if that money's just going away. And we all know the DAO is very open and honest. It's not, but it gives off that perception, I think, is a serious consideration when the market's just irrational. You should take advantage of it, and building up the treasury entirely when you go and add more Rook to our treasury. Entire Rook on the balance sheet will also be increasing, and that's a helpful thing to be able to spend and grow grants and incentivize people in the future. And can have a circular kind of positive reflexive loop that we can kind of get into. But I think it's important. I don't think it's a buyback at any price, but the discounts below intrinsic value of just the treasury, and clearly stated something should be seriously considered on this end without the ability to be front run, et cetera, and gaming it. But yeah, those are my 2 cents on the piece. I think it was a good proposal, so it'd be something I would be in favor of.
So just
go ahead, please.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So yes, in terms of like if a fundraise was to happen, then yes, it would be beneficial to have it in the native token. In terms of grants and stuff like that, or paying for contributors, contractors, whatever it is, I don't see any reason why that would necessarily have to be in Rook, given the likelihood that if you're kind of paying people, then the probability is that they would just sell that to USDC or something straight after the fact anyway. So I don't see the necessity that on that specific point, I don't see the necessity that it would have to be.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go into specifics. Yes, sure. I think it could be, but at the same time, I'm also down for you guys to take a higher percentage of a salary, just add on and Rook to really align this incentive. Like, that's something I think is helpful to have more of the DAO members be larger Rook holders in terms of the compensation you guys get. There's a lot you can do with your native token. These are internal capital mechanisms.
I would already say that a lot of the Labs team are the largest Rook holders right now. But we also face this problem 14 months ago, where a large portion of tokens were given out as salary. Me personally, I was paid 70% of my salary at the time in Rook. And what was not in consideration there is how independent contractors in the United States are taxed.
Yeah.
And
yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking that.
And so what that happened was that you then had people like me, contributors, thinking about, okay, I'm not paid enough cash to even cover my tax bill. How am I going to how am I not going to sell any Rook while paying for my regular costs of living and paying my taxes? And that was a losing calculation for me, very especially. So I would just caution against something like that.
Okay. Yeah. No. Fair. And
I think the point is. I think the point in paying.
Yeah. I'm not trying to say like
paying in Rook is that you capture value, right? You don't expect Rook to be trading at $18 ad infinitum under the net asset value. You're buying it at $18 so that you can issue it out at $30 to $40, which we expect it to trade at some point in the future. That's the trade here, right? Like it's not a case of if they're selling it back to USDC, so what's the point? It's so that you get more bang for your buck. We're saying it's undervalued. We expect it to trade higher at some point.
And
that's the trade. It's not a case.
I hear you. And that is, someone that votes on every proposal, and I hear you there. But I think that path or that expectation, people probably need to make sure that they're comfortable with all of the, written things about the token and what's been passed regarding it. Like right now, if you think about KIP 35, until something like this passes next, that accrual method or whatever, was removed. So, until I think a new plan around that, I think a structured buyback, is an option that many people have taken care of, and I think it's a solid option. I would just want to make sure that we handle things the right way and that people's expectations are managed properly. Because if we don't have the right system set up before this, then who knows if we get back into the same position as KIP 4 or whatever the other KIP was, where we spent about $6 million to buy back Rook. Is that okay? Cool.
Was that below Treasury at that time? I mean, the thing is, I don't think you guys can even get off a couple $1 million buy. Like it just, I think the intention.
I'm not really sure.
You'll probably just actually put the price back to near Treasury, just almost the KIP passing, and then we're at like just a better functioning environment. You guys can use Rook and spending it in a more efficient manner, because any spending of it now is really inefficient, obviously.
Right. Yeah, and the DAO has never had plans to sell Rook. I don't think any of us have really talked about that yet. So we then accrue more and more Rook, but we never sell any of it. What do we do then?
Well, I think there's a lot of evidence that we can sell it in the future, and especially if you, wouldn't that take another proposal of, hey, listen, we want to 10x the team. We're gonna need budget. We're gonna need to raise money to do this, and maybe it can't be completely supported by revenue or something, but maybe this is in a year after some adoption. I think there's a possibility that the Rook we buy now is worth more then, and that can enable those possibilities in a way that if we don't kind of go with a structured buyback like this, we wouldn't be as strong and is enabled to do that.
I actually have I actually disagree with a couple of things that brings up, like, fairly strongly. So I'm not trying to be combative, but I'll try and kind of elucidate my thoughts. Okay, so first of all, I would say that, like, trying to doing a buyback system in that kind of sense where you're doing it in expectation of selling later at a profit gets dangerously close to trading, which is not something that we really want to do with the treasury. I would say that also if you're going to do that, if you're going to buy token now, expect a increase in price later, and then have another community proposal to sell it at a later point. From just from other DAOs who have like similar situations, the community. My personal guess would be that the community feedback to a proposal to sell large amounts of a token, a governance token, is not going to go down particularly well. The reason for that is that if you are selling like significant amounts of the token to the open market to pay for salaries or whatever, that the impact that's going to have on price is fairly obvious, and that directly kind of negatively affects token holders in the short term. That's something that you see with like I think Aave also went through this, where they had a proposal to like sell some Aave token to raise funds, and then not every, but a lot of Aave tokens just looked at that and said, look, if you sell that amount of Aave, like the value that we hold in our wallets is demonstrably going to go down, and that it's that is obviously true, and whether that's a good thing in the medium to long term is just a separate debate. But that's one kind of issue that arises from something like that.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And I think
there's many ways that we can slice this in the ways that we wouldn't want to do it. I think at all heartedly we can say if we buy something below its intrinsic value, like we are creating value for the enterprise and the DAO, like just kind of hands down, right? Like it is value creation at buying something that's worth, unless we think, it's a DAO, we think we are worth less than our treasury. And I think you just take a 1.5 year burn, which is like 6 million, so take 9 off the treasury. If we think we are less than that, we need to find other stuff. But like honestly, I think we all are here because we think this enterprise is worth more than that. This DAO is worth more than that. So we're creating value.
I think that you are making a big assumption here that when you talk about intrinsic value, why are you assigning the intrinsic value to the treasury?
Yeah,
and
I
this
agree.
is my opinion. I just want to know why you are assigning the intrinsic value to the treasury value.
I think it's more than that. I would hope it is, but that is the dollars that a DAO is worth. Like I want to like either that or we can
why is the DAO owning? Why is the token holder owning the treasury?
Because it's the treasury is owned by the DAO, correct? I mean, no, or like does
is
the team?
Is that written or stated anywhere?
It's implicitly understood. I don't know what line of argument that is. Like, yes, the DAO.
I'm not saying this is my opinion. I'm just
holders.
saying that these are all things that, unless it's written somewhere, could be argued differently, like by claimants.
You don't explicitly write it because it's not because you're getting regulatory trouble. It's implicitly understood by everyone in the community.
So you're saying is that
token holders
explicitly illegal? So you're saying it's explicitly illegal is what you're saying?
What? No, I'm saying that it's implicitly understood that every token holder owns the treasury. That is not even like that is if you're in DeFi, that's exactly what you've signed up for.
I'm just saying is that is an assumption that I don't know personally if that's correct.
Here, if I could chime in here.
You're just intellectually masturbating then.
No, I'm like I think you could scroll up a couple weeks back and Guard has written things about that as well. But I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I am not anything. I am just a person in this DAO stating my opinion is that I don't know if that assumption is correct.
Yeah, just to really quickly interject here. Yes, I'm personally definitely familiar with the idea that the native token is a claim on the treasury. I think what Dietz is pointing out here is that if some, like serious edge case were to come up where, regulatory bodies got involved, if there's not that explicit contract which directly says governance token X is proportional to a claim on the treasury, then it's not legally binding. We're completely leaving out the question of whether that is the assumption that everybody bought the token on or not. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, Deeds, but I think that was that was the point that was being made.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that I'm not trying to argue that. I'm saying that there could be a party that argues that. It could be the US government. It could be individuals. It could be whatever. I'm just saying, so I just don't know if I personally would apply that assumption here.
Yeah, and if I could hop in also. You mind if I hop in real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like really explicit to not even mention the treasury value at any point in my proposal, because honestly, I believe there's an argument that treasury agnostically, the Rook token's undervalued. The technology is undervalued. They have a great team, right? They have a great IP. They have a great niche in the market, and Flashbots is currently looking to raise $1 billion. Raise at $1 billion. They're looking to raise 500 million at $1 billion valuation. The Rook token, I don't know. Rook Labs doesn't have a public valuation or a private valuation, but the token is at what, $20 million. There's quite a kind of discrepancy in the value of a team creating products for MEV between somebody like Flashbots and where this protocol is at and where this DAO is at. There's a discrepancy there. So from an investment standpoint, as a strategic investment, as a DAO, I think there's an opportunity there. Kind of looking at it from that perspective with no kind of regard to the treasury. So yeah, that's some thoughts I had.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I understand.
And I support that. I think that's a great frame of mind to think about it. I think that just a lot of assumptions that get made, we just got to be careful about, and especially if we put it in writing on things. So that would be my only point there.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's a precedent here, right? There's precedent with Temple, there's a precedent with other DAOs that, yes, token holders have a claim on the treasury.
But those are like investment DAOs, are they not? Or like, I don't know, meme stable asset. Like, I don't know even
what,
to call
what,
that.
what was written in the terms of the white paper?
Nexus Mutual would not describe itself as an investment DAO. It does, but its token does have de facto claim on a treasury.
And was that how that token was written up in its token documentation? And is that how their governance was sworn in? Like, there's a lot of more processes to make that assumption a truth. Like I think that you can say, yes, there's precedent out there, and are you going to go make that legal argument in court? I mean, that's up to you.
Yeah, that's kind of like the whole kind of like code is law argument. There's no precedent in this space, right? Like, is exploiting a smart contract, is that criminal? Because like, due to the parameters of the code, this was possible, but due to the intent of the code, it wasn't. There's a lot of ambiguity, and to like say that that's extremely clear, or that everybody in the space agrees that DAOs are a claim on the treasury, I don't think that's true. I think it's true in some circumstances, but there's also no legal precedent. So,
well, I'll say this from my point of view. I am a token holder, and I am a treasury multi-sig signer. I personally believe I have zero claim to the assets in that treasury. Personally, I believe that. as a signer of that multi-sig. That's my personal belief. And my address is doxed. Like, I show my face on stuff. Like, and you know, so that's how I operate here. I work my ass off to try and make us work. And I've put a lot of my own money and been paid in Rook a lot. So, but in terms of making assumptions about the Rook token and what it has rights to, I can't define that. And so I'm not going to define that.
Just to quickly answer, I don't know how to pronounce that now, but why would shareholders not have claim to the treasury? I think assumes that it's natural that they would. Where I think the point that we're making here is that in this kind of regulatory end case, there's no reason to believe that would be the final kind of legal judgment.
And I don't have authority here. So, I mean, this is just my opinion. We can argue all day about that. And this is, you know, just a status update. This isn't even like the official forum for talking about Rizzo's good proposal here. But yeah, I mean, I you know, it's not like what I say goes or anything like that. I feel like I have a duty as a multi-sig signer to uphold what the DAO tells me to do. And that's my job. And that's about it.
I think something interesting to think about, like, regardless of whether the Rook token does or doesn't have claim to the treasury, that's like a separate topic. But if we're going to take the conservative view that it doesn't, or that it needs to be looked at by legals intensely beforehand, I think an interesting topic is whether it's then responsible or irresponsible to allow the Rook token to continue to trade, or whether to look into ways to clarify for existing holders and potentially new holders sort of a position so that there isn't this ambiguity that could be leading people to invest under false pretense.
I don't
But there's no
necessarily that would be I don't think that responsibility would be beholden to the DAO. Again, going back to this kind of like regulatory endgame thing, like if a user buys, you know, X token on the assumption that it represents a claim of the treasury or whatever, as far as I'm aware, I don't believe that the issuer of that token would be responsible for that user's assumption unless it was kind of explicitly stated somewhere.
Okay, fair enough. But do you then think that that's ethical of the DAO?
That what specifically is ethical of the DAO?
Allowing the Rook token to trade with no actual value mechanism now or in the future. It's basically a token that does nothing and has no plan to do anything in the future. Yet people are assigning this like 10 million plus value to it, without the DAO sort of clarifying that there is or isn't any value expected to be derived from it in the future.
They can't legally do that, though.
In which case, like, just shut the token down. Like, I don't understand.
I don't know. Why shut the token down? Like, you could just
because
not
it's
buy it.
valueless.
Because it's not
Okay,
not going to
that's
be
fair.
worth anything in the future. And if the DAO
It is a valueless governance token. I agree. If Gensler is listening, that is why I'm here. It's just valueless governance participation.
Just to go back
I
to
think we're tipping around. I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
The treasury, but we get it on the token owners. We get a vote on what we think the DAO should direct the treasury to spend money on, right? And so that's the value towards that, to create and do things to spend.
Right, and exactly.
Value there. Right. So in
And
the end of the day, that's something that's we all collectively am able to be a part of, and we all think that the team can build a lot of value there, worth more with 40 million, make more than $40 million worth of value potentially in the future.
But it can't
That's
be
just
directed to token holders, like by dividends,
No,
buybacks,
it's fine.
anything like.
It's just
But-
the IP that we have. No, the IP that we create and the intrinsic value of the usage of PMV can create that. So I think there's something there to think about. And
Are you talking
inherently
about IP ownership?
of what's being built and what you guys are doing and directing the DAO?
I don't know who owns the IP. It's not me though, because I didn't build any of it. I do marketing and sales and community and communications. So I don't know. Does the DAO own the IP? Does the person who built stuff that the DAO uses own the IP?
I'd like to add that one stated mission of the goal is to be a credibly of the DAO is to be a credibly neutral platform. And if you guys have read any Vitalik or like read some ideas on that concept, it's really having no single point of failure, creating a governance model that sustains something, an entity, a DAO that can exist for 100 years, independent of all people, with no single point of failure. These are very crypto values, I personally believe. And there's a lot of legal ambiguity. Nobody knows. It's kind of the point of all this new technology is that nobody knows. We're kind of arguing semantics where there is no answer. And that's just kind of how it is.
I think it's a great conversation to continue in governance workshop as well, just because I think it's important. These are very important conversations for the DAO to figure out. And if we want to put stuff down officially or whatever, that's what this governance system is for. I choose poverty. Thanks, Potato. Appreciate it. So I'm here to try to be a rational head. I'm not a SoFund, so I don't make decisions on this. I'll think about if I'm going to write a forum response, but I would encourage everybody that's got thoughts on this to write a forum response. Rizzo, again, thoroughly researched, important topic. So I just want to say thanks again.
Yeah, again.
Yeah, for sure. I had an opinion and I chose to govern. So I suggest everybody else maybe do the same. If you think there should be an intrinsic or stated tie to the treasury or something like that, write it down. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I love seeing people remain active and participate. I think it's great. All right, cool. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the call for today. I mean, I think this was all great stuff. People can continue in the channels above and with chat. If not, we'll get started up next week. And Rizzo, we can connect you with Jason and see what we can talk about for governance workshop as well. I hate to say it, but we all know about the backlog. So
for sure,
we got to work through stuff too. But yeah, so again, thanks to everyone that voted on the like asset kind swap KIP, and we'll see you all next week. Have a good weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, friends.